Now we talked about the Tamid Shel Ben Harbayim. One of the things that I'll say this outside. You open up to the first page of Temidin and UMusafin, and like usual, the Rambam brings the mitzvahs that are going to be discussed in these halachos. Right? You want a copy, Yosef? Here, this has it.
Third base.
Fine. Second paragraph. At the beginning, the Rambam says the various mitzvahs that are involved. So the first mitzvah is, in the first halachas you discussed, were lakriv shnei chavasim b'chol yom olof, to bring 2 lambs as a burnt offering in the temple, right? What are the 2 lambs? We call them the korban tamid. You see here, there's a mitzvah to bring these 2 olof. And then he talks about to keep the fire going on the mizbeach. That's what we were discussing last week. And then he's going to talk about trumas hadeshin. Also, keep a fire going. Don't put it out. The mitzvah to keep it going, the positive commandment. Negative commandment to extinguish it. La'arimet hadeshin b'chol yom, to take some from the ashes every day. La'aktir ketoreth b'chol yom, to burn the incense every day. La'lik neroth b'chol yom, to light the candles. Yeah, that's menorah. And then the Kohen Gadol has to bring his own personal sacrifice, his meal offering every single day. That's Chavitei Kohen Gadol. And then he says here, the mitzvah, Losif Shnei Shvasim Oloth B'Shabbat, to also add 2 lambs every Shabbos. Basically, the Musaf of Shabbos is just double Korban Tamid. Now, I've been trying to look through the halachas here, as we're going to see them, and the Rambam basically glosses over the Musaf of Shabbos. Okay? It's almost, you can't even find it, basically. You're going to see, we're going to go through all this, God willing, over the next few weeks. And it's going to be kind of difficult to find, when does Rambam actually say that they bring the Korban on Shabbos? Okay? Yeah, and it doesn't even warrant its own special place. He just mentions on Shabbos there's a special Shil Yom. Okay? And then he talks about Rosh Chodesh Musaf. So it's very strange. Why didn't the Rambam discuss more about Shabbos Musaf? I think almost looks like an error. Okay, you have the right place. That, and it's chapter 2, halacha middle of halacha tes, in this edition at least. Maybe you have it differently numbered. That's the problem. They corrected it. The traditional numbering system was put in by printers and not according to the Rambam. I think the way in the Kisbayat, it's just paragraph breaks like they have in Machon Mamre and in the Makbili, what you might have there. That's why here, for example, I have just tet, yud. See, halacha. Well, it starts with harama sedeshin. See here, where is halacha yud? You can't even find halacha yud. Where is halacha yud in my edition? Here's tet. Where's yud? It jumps to yud aleph over here, and you might have tet 1, tet 2, tet 3. Just yud, okay. And I'm looking for yud over here, and I can't seem to find it. Okay, my eyes aren't what they used to be. Rambam starts here. Here it's halacha yud. In the Machon Mamre edition, it's yud. Harama sedeshin me'al mizbeach l'chol yom. Now, what does it mean laharim? What does it literally mean? What? To remove. Sometimes it means to lift up, right? But it's also the word for taking out truma. You don't literally lift up truma. Sometimes you could just, like we did this morning with the grapes. I have to bring the tithe to the Levi, by the way. So you take out some of the grapes and truma, right? That's cool. That's where the word truma comes from. So you just move it aside. You don't have to actually lift it up. Okay. Well, I guess it's uplifted because it's made holier. So too, you have this act of taking off the ashes from the altar. And by the way, the fact that it's called harama means it's not just dishun, for example. Dishun means complete removal of the ashes every day. In this case, there's a pile of ashes. This is a ceremonial removal of a portion thereof, just like truma. How much truma are you supposed to take from your crop? Bowl of grapes. How much is supposed to go to truma? What? 2%. Okay, good. You can't take the whole thing, right? You're not supposed to. Just leave for everybody else. It's a ceremonial amount, right? So too, this removing of the ashes from the altar every day is a ceremonial amount. Okay, the actual removal we'll see soon. In a second, hold on. Okay, he shall lift up, or he shall take a portion from the ashes. Deshen, by the way, nowadays, the dashen means to remove the ashes from something. Nowadays, because actually ashes, let's say wood ashes is good fertilizer. Sometimes it means like fertilization. Okay, you give it to your plants. As we said before, this is one of the avodas that has to be done by the kohanim, which means you need a kohen, needs to be dressed properly, and can't be a balmum, etc. Uvigdei kahuna sheturim behem hadeshen yu pichutin min hakelim shemishtamesh behen b'shar avodot. The kohanic garments that he wears when he does this should be of lesser quality than those that he wears during the rest of the time when he's serving. Why? Because it's a dirty process. You're thinking, wait a minute, a regular Kohen, when he slaughters, let's say, the Korban Tamid and catches the blood and throws the blood, and then they chop the Tamid, whatever it is, the lamb. Sometimes they have a whole bull as a burnt offering. They're dissecting it into large pieces, and they're throwing up pieces onto the Mizbeach. They're catching blood and throwing the blood. You don't think they get dirty from such a thing. What? No, but I'm saying the Big Day Kahuna don't exactly survive these types of things. They get bloody, right? Yeah, but here it says that for this messy act of removing the ashes, he even wears inferior Kohen clothes, because this is apparently even messier. Dealing with these ashes, by the way, you deal with ashes, well, you're going to get all blackened, right? Yeah. So
brush them off,
what?
put them underwater.
You don't. Basically, they never cleaned Big Day Kahuna. Second, they're dirt. They don't get laundered. They just get, like I said, they're turned into wicks. Big Day Kahuna are basically, like I think some doctors supposed to be. They're supposed to be doctor scrubs, like single-use clothing. Okay. By the way, you're supposed to, when you wear a lab coat and have a doctor's coat, they said, well, they wear a nice long wet lab coat, white coat, right? They're really supposed to wash those things more frequently. If the doctor never changes his lab coat, it's always the same lab coat, he never washes it. That's not really being hygienic. You might as well just change his shirt every day, Okay. By the way, so here it's kind of interesting that he should take off his clothes. That means it says the Kohen does this, and put on other clothes, and then verimet hadeshen. Trumas hadeshen is really early in Sefer Vayikra. Well, it means just cheaper ones.
How are they cheaper? There's like standards for they can.
Well,
What does it mean cheaper? There's standards.
Yeah, they were just like the Kohen Gadol. He had more expensive linen. Basically, it's all linen. The Kohanim wear fine linen, right? Okay. So some linens are more expensive. They're made with a higher thread count. They're made by better artisans, thicker, thinner. There's different qualities. Just like your t-shirts. We're all wearing cotton t-shirts right now, I think, right? Well, you're wearing a polyester t-shirt. Yeah, that'll probably make you feel icky. If you want to feel comfortable, you should wear a cotton t-shirt. Yeah, so you should know. Well,
then you sweat and your shirt gets all nasty. It's dry.
Okay, fine. So you'll be more comfortable with a cotton t-shirt. You also know. I don't know what you're wearing. What is that shirt made out of? Well, dry fit. Okay, so at least those of us who know about wearing proper cotton t-shirts, you find here in Israel, they could sell you the cheap ones from China. There are certain cotton t-shirts that don't feel as good as, let's say, the Hanes ones you get in America. And even if the Hanes ones are made in China nowadays, they're still a little bit better than which ones? The cheapy ones, right? There's a difference. So too in this case, there's a difference. Uvigdei kuna, he says here, sorry. Eino omer achirim shiu bigdei chol. When it says other garments, he shouldn't wear just non-Kohanic clothes. Ella shiu pichutin mina rishonot. They should be lesser than his original bigdei kahuna. Lefi shein derech eretz sheim zo kos l'rabo bivgadim shebishel bahen kedera l'rabo. He shouldn't serve his master. He's talking about a servant, the butler, right? He pours the wine he goes over to the table his master's sitting at, he pours the wine into his cup. Actually, he dilutes the wine for his master here. He shouldn't be wearing the same clothing which he used to cook his dish. And by the way, cooking used to be messier. Nowadays, people cook sometimes wear an apron. But in the old days, cooking was a lot messier. Why was cooking a lot messier? Why would you get dirty just by cooking? Well, no, just by cooking. Let's say you're cooking rice and beans in a pot. Well,
cook over a fire.
You cook over a real fire, you get soot. It's like, why is it that there used to be this minhag? It was the worst thing to bring the pot directly to the table, right? Covered in soot. You have to put it into a serving vessel. My mother used to like saying this. She'd bring the soup in a stainless steel pot, the chicken soup, to the Shabbos table. I was like, oh, you can't do that. Why? There's nothing on it. It's a perfectly fine, brand new stainless steel. No, because in the olden days, it used to be full of soot. You'd actually have to put it into a tureen or something like that in order to serve it. So too, anybody who was busy cooking, so he wouldn't be fit to then formally pour the wine at the table. That's kind of interesting. Notice that this mushal is saying that Truma Sadeshen, that's going to get the Kohen dirty. So for this, he has to change his clothes. But the actual act, which is referred to as giving God Korban Ilach Mi Ishai, God's food, so to speak, on his altar, that you don't have to change your clothes for. That actually involved what? Fire, burning things, and a lot of blood. Okay, shows you this was apparently messier than the rest of the avodas, despite the fact that a lot of the avodah was messy. How many Kohanim actually got bloodied or messied during a day? Whoever dealt with the actual animal sacrifices. If you're dealing with menachos or the Torahs or lighting the menorah or other jobs that the Kohanim had, you'd probably stay pretty clean, right? Yeah. Yes.
They work on minachot. Their clothes don't get dirty. Are they allowed to wear them several days in a row, or do they still have to?
So it says that the Kohanim went to sleep with their clothes folded under their heads. Apparently, if the clothing, what? They went to sleep at night in the base moked, the dormitory. Why is it called moked? Because there's a fire. There was a hearth there to keep them warm. So they slept on their big day kahuna. They folded them up and put it under their heads like their pillows. Okay, and they had their chalonot. It says their shelves. Basically, a madaf is a shelf. If you have many shelves within the wall like this, it's called chalonot, windows. So they had in their place, they had places where they stored their big day kahuna. They could take them off and put them back on. If they didn't get dirty, they could wear them another day. It wasn't perfectly single use, just that never laundered. Once they needed laundering, then they were taken out of service. Okay. Yeah, it's very interesting. We're going to have to make a lot of big day kahuna. So Rashi here, they point out that Rashi says the set wearing the different garments isn't what they wore in the temple. It's only to take them out of the temple. The deshin has to end up, outside Yerushalayim, outside the walls. For that act, they changed their clothes. But the actual little bit of scooping out a little Truma Sadeshen, they didn't change their clothes for such a thing. Okay? Rashi's more makel than Rambam in this case. And Masai Tormim Adeshen. So when would they do this Truma Sadeshen? Okay. Now, I would like to point out that what did Rambam just do here? Masai Tormim Sadeshen.
Oh, he turned it into a verb.
Yeah, Tormim Sadeshen, like the Rambam says in Maseches Truma. By the way, there's something that's a little bit confusing. There's Maseches Zvachim has two prakim called Kol Zvachim, right? The first parak and the second parak. Normally, they know the Rashi tells you parak this. It says saying the fifth parak of something. It says the parak known as Misha Achzo. Okay. So he calls the first two prakim of Zvachim begin with Kol Zvachim. So the difference is Kol Zvachim Shenizbechu. Okay. So that's the first chapter. And then you have Perek Tvul Yom. And this brings more confusion. We talked about the names of the Masechtas the other week, right? There's a Perek called Tvul Yom. What's the problem with saying that there's a Perek called Tvul Yom? There's a Masechta in Torah called Tvul Yom. Okay. It gets a little confusing here. Okay. Here, Rambam has done what he says in his Parashah Mishneh, speaking of Truma, which is the verb leharim is a hifil from the Shorish Reish Vav Mem. That's the way it's in the Torah. Truma, the tuf is not part of the Shorish. The tuf is a prefix. The room, that's the Shorish. And you have words like tishua, or like this is machlokas. I disagree. Rabbi Bar-Hayim says the word tekufa. He likes pshat that the word tekufa comes from the Shorish tuf kuf fei. What the problem is, a lot of the medactic say no. The word tekufa comes from the Shorish kuf vav fei. Doesn't change the pshat in his halachic argument about the tekufa and when you're supposed to say Kiddush, the blessing on the son. The point is that seems to be the word. All the words of that mishkal with a taf at the beginning of the Shavah and then some sort of shuruk in the middle, all are from the Shoresh with the vav in the middle. Tikufa, tiruma, tishua, tisua, right? Give other examples. Tirua, like the sound of shofar. Those are all verbs with the root, vav right in the middle, and the taf is part of the Shoresh. But because truma is already a word, truma is a noun, and the original Shoresh was Reish Vav Mem, they created a new Shoresh, Taf Reish Mem, Litrom, to take truma. That's a Mishneh new Shoresh. And that's what Rambam just jumped to. In the first halacha, he was using the biblical language, Hifil. And now he's using a Pa'al, using this brand new Shoresh that he said they created back in the day, because, of course, even Mishneh times, unlike people who make the claim that in the land of Israel, let's say in the first century, what was the native language of the Jews? The first century, Hebrew. So many people say no, Aramaic. Okay. Why would it be Aramaic? Because Jews were speaking Aramaic since the Babylonian exile.
And say that there were Jews that knew Aramaic even in biblical times.
Yeah, but yeah, like Yirmiyahu Navi writes a few things in Aramaic, right?
Just a few Aramaic stuff in the Torah.
Yes, there's Aramaic in the Torah, a few words here and there. Most sure, but you use Aramaic, you default to Aramaic when you want to be poetic, right? But they claim that that was actually the spoken language. It seems it was both. Okay, it seems that both languages were used quite commonly in the olden days. For example, Rabbi Gamliel's letter to about adding a year, adding a leap month when he declared it. Rabbi Gamliel the Zakin, it was in times of the second Mesa Mikdash, so he wrote his letter in Aramaic. But then again, it was going to be sent out to everybody. So they used Aramaic and Hebrew.
You have Machon on the screen?
Yes, I have Machon Mamre on the screen. What?
Let's say there Tormim edition.
It says Tormim Hadeshin, like in my edition. There's no et. Okay. Emasai Tormim Hadeshin. You don't have to have the word et. I remember speaking to someone. He said to me, with Itumo, wait a minute, you always have to have the word et, especially before an object which has hey hayadia. Okay. Tormim es Hadeshin, right? Because you're going to say the object of the verb is deshen and has a hey hayadia, so you have to have the aleph tuf beforehand, right?
Okay.
And I told him the second he said this to me, I said V'asisa atova vayashar vayas hara b'nei Hashem. Especially with regards to asiyah, the verb asiyah, even though the object will have a hey hayadiyah, you will not have the et. By the way, what's the function of the word et? It's basically a preposition that points to the direct object of the verb, right? You don't have such a thing. You plug this in for me? Okay, so yeah, it should be Torim Mesadeshen, but you don't have to have it. It's not a solid rule in the Bible that you always have that word et there before the direct object with the hey hayidiyah. Okay, let's close up what we had to say here with the prayer, of course, that we live to see the destruction of Israel's enemies and the return of all of Jewish territory to the hands of the Jewish people. And we should also have, what did it say? Kibush, Gerush, Hityashvut through repentance. And like Rabbi said, Shabbat Shalom, V'nitzachon. Be well, everybody.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.